Hey guys, I want to talk about what I do with my table, like table hacks or whatever. Um, this is, of course, just me, just like on my videos. Uh, when I first get a table recovered, and this was recovered, I want to say like June. I get it done every couple of years. For just a personal home table, it may not need it that often, but every couple of years I get it recovered. Should probably do it closer to like Christmas because I go into Derby City in January, and those tables always seem super fast. And if I had this table recovered more recently, might not be as big of a transition. But June is, June, July is when I get my table recovered. First thing I do once it's recovered is nothing. I let it rest for a while. And somebody at one point told me that when you get new cloth put on, of course they stretch it to put it on, and the stretching might be just a little bit uneven. And I usually give it 24 hours to kind of, even out. So what I do next doesn't get affected by the cloth settling or relaxing or whatever. But what I do next, and this is just me, as far as I know, is I take a yardstick and I take some sewing thread and I measure out and I get a thread between every diamond. Just put on it, Every year I think I should get a template to do this more quickly, but I never do because I only get my table recovered every couple of years. But I put a thread. I use the sewing thread because it stretches a little bit. And if it stretches a little bit, then I know that it's straight. If it stretches a little bit, I know that it's straight. I do the same thing between these diamonds. So now I have this grid pattern across my table that is as perfect as I can make it, everything being lined up with the diamonds. And I just take a Sharpie and just go to every place where those threads intersect, and I just tap like that. I do this every now and then after the fact, like I'm doing right now, because that black mark does fade after a while. And again, it's just a tap. I'm not drawing a little circle or anything like that. I'm just tapping it on there. The reason that I have these dots is mainly so I can like set up shots and practice, the same shots over and over. And even if it's not a setup, if it was in the game, I usually have enough sense to know that, like, hey, I missed this shot. This cue ball was between these two dots. And this 14 was, maybe 3/4 of the way between these two dots. Just to give me an idea. But I can also set up specific shots if I want to work on specific shots. That's why I do it. The next thing that I do, once I have those set, is I put in a head string line. I take a straight edge. I usually use this, and I lay it against my dots here at the head string of the table. And I don't use a Sharpie for this. I think I'm afraid that the ink will bleed out a little bit, expand out a little bit. So in this case, let's use a ballpoint pen. I don't push too hard. It's not hurting my cloth. And I just take a ballpoint pen and just draw the head string line. I think every pool table that's used for any kind of serious play, certainly any tournaments, should have a head string line. A lot of places don't. I don't know, the owners think well, it breaks my cloth or hurts my cloth that I just paid $500 for or whatever. I disagree. I think this is very important to have this. And nowadays, most places are doing, the whole ball has to be behind the line to be considered in the kitchen. If there's any part of it touching that line, then it's out. It's considered to be out of the kitchen. Object ball is the same way. You talk about touching the line and all that. It helps if there's a line. The next thing I do is I come down here, and I already have a dot at the foot spot because I put a dot everywhere. Remember? So there's a dot right there. I take a little donut hole. Actually, I take it back. The first thing I do is I draw a line from this straight to this diamond. And again, I use my straight edge, I use a ballpoint pen, I lay it here, draw a line straight down. This helps in spotting balls. If you have spotted two balls, you can put them right on that line, and you know damn well that it's right. And you're not going to be able to get away with cheating if you're so inclined to want to do that and have things favor in your pocket or whatever. No, because you just put it right out, and there it is. I think every table that's used for serious play should have this. It should have the head string line, and it should have this line dropping down the foot string. A lot of places don't know why. But then the next thing that I do once I have my line drawn is I just put a donut hole right there. The center of the donut hole is my dot that I drew in step one. If you have a table where you play a lot of straight pool, which I don't think there are anymore, or back in the straight pool days, they used to do a lot of, they would get things set up, put a ball on the spot, get the rack nice and settled and where it's supposed to be, and they would draw a line around the perimeter of the rack. And that's because in straight pool, it's important to know if a ball would interfere with the racking of the next rack or not, like the 6 would. So the 6 has to go up there before the balls get re-racked. A lot of people don't do that anymore, but there's not a lot of straight pool play anymore. Oh, the other thing about this foot string line is a lot of racks. This one's one of them. Just have to find it. Yeah, this isn't going to show up on camera. Nothing ever does. This is a Delta 13 rack, and it has little hash marks right in the middle, so I can tell right exactly in the middle where this rack is, where this is, and that means that I can put a ball in my donut hole, make sure that it stays there, and I can line up this little hash mark on this rack. I know for an absolute fact that this rack is perfectly perpendicular to the table. It's not twisted. It's perfect. It's perfect. Now, one of the things I do because I'm lazy is once I get this initially set up, I'll take a little ballpoint pen and I just put a little mark here and a little mark here, just outside the rack, so I don't have to mess with this anymore. I can just come along here and go down to my marks, watching my center, and then I know that it's going to be a perfect rack at that point. I don't think this is too much to ask for. So a lot of places don't want to mark up their tables, but I think this line is 100% necessary. It should be mandatory, and the same thing with the head string line, because those are two very important things. But a lot of places don't do that. And again, the dots are just, for me, practicing and stuff like that. They don't mean anything. So once you have your table, and you got whatever markings you're going to put on it, you're Miles Guerrero. You could draw little cartoons on your cloth for all I care. This is just what I do. But you have to start taking care of the table, cleaning the table. You don't want it to be crap. I get this recovered every couple of years. I take pretty good care of it. And what I do, I think what most places do nowadays, is not the old method of taking a brush. I actually own a brush, but I couldn't find it. Taking a brush and brush, get everything brushed down to here, and then brush into a pocket, and then I guess it stays there. You plant corn or something. I don't know. But a lot of that's what people would do. Some of the people that who I'm convinced wanted to annoy me would take like a damp washcloth and wet down the cloth with this damp washcloth, and absolutely drive me crazy. Absolutely drive me crazy when people do that. But people do it, or did it, The last time I saw someone do it was he was in his 90s and he did it because he's been doing it, for 90 years. I haven't seen anybody do it since that guy passed away. There's a local pool establishment around here that has one of those. It's not a Roomba, but it's like that. It's not that brand, but it's like that. And they just take that on the table and let it go and do its thing, run around the table and suck up stuff. I have a couple of those. They've actually both broken on me. And I'll put a clip of one of my robot vacuums, if I can find it. I'm sure I can. I'll put it here. Which wasn't that adorable. But that's what I did until that particular vacuum cleaner, EUFY, I think was the brand, is every now and then it would come up and it would hit a rail and it wouldn't have enough sense to turn. It would start basically burning rubber, doing peel outs right here, and it marked up my cloth. Like, so, no, screw that. And what I use nowadays is this guy. This is just a Dyson, little handheld thing, and works perfectly fine. I can put another attachment on if I want to go under the rails, things like that. Works perfectly fine. Just do that. Just do that. It keeps my table clean, and I don't have to be adding any moisture to it like some people do. It's perfectly good. I don't remember what I paid for that, but most vacuum cleaners will have some type of a hand attachment. You can do that. I don't think it hurts the cloth at all. Even though that one's got like a rotating brush. It's nice and soft. That's my opinion, I'm looking at my board here. I have all these notes and shit written up here. Okay, so now you've got your table with whatever markings you're going to put on it. And you're keeping it clean. Some of the other things that I can do is I can start doing stuff to like help me to train or practice what I want to practice. Some of you guys have seen some of my videos where I'll have painter's tape and I'll cover the diamonds on the rail. And that's to help me when I'm practicing my banks, to bank by looking at the angles and not by where the diamonds and all that. Just to practice. I don't leave this tape on all the time because diamonds do exist for a reason and they can't help. But sometimes I miss that diamond. Sometimes it feels like I'm relying too much on where those diamonds are, and I should be relying on what does the angle look like to me. So some of you people that might have watched my older videos, and I'm more than 2 years old, is I would have these donut holes. And what I would do with these donut holes is I would take one and put it between every pair of diamonds. So just got the little donut hole. I would measure it out, of course, get everything as perfect as I could get it. And I would put a donut hole, for example, right there, here. And I did this, I missed that by a half inch. When I did this when I was learning how to bank. And I wanted to use the diamonds and to, this diamond to 1.5, what is that? And it helped a lot. And what happened was every year, I would go to Derby City Classic, and they wouldn't have these on the table, and I'd spend, part of the first game at least, kind of missing those. Oh, I wish I had those. It looks weird. At that point, I wasn't relying on them anymore. But it just looked weird to not have them. I guess it'd probably be like if you went to a pool hall. There used to be a place called Pinky's in Omaha that had pink cloth. I guess once you get used to it, it was perfectly fine. But walking in there, we used to at the time green cloth, and there's all this pink. It's just weird, and that's what the deal was with me with the diamond holes not being on the tables at Derby City Classic. So I ended up just taking them off here. Like I said, I didn't need them anymore. They ended up just being there, and they would just get grungy and dirty and all that. So now you got your table, you keeping it clean, you got it marked up. You can manipulate the rails, you know, the diamonds or more than one diamond or whatever, however you want to do. One of the things I do along with keeping it clean is I like to keep the table fast, as fast as I can. Brand new cloth is going to be the fastest, and over the years it's going to get slower, mostly from chalk being embedded down into it sometimes by people with damn cloths. Ugh, driving me crazy. So I don't know if you all can hear. You probably can. It's kind of a chilly night here, and I've got a heater underneath my table. I've got a little space heater under my table, and what that does is gets any moisture out of this cloth to leave this cloth and go up or whatever. Somebody in a video once said that John Brumback does this right before Derby City every year. I'm like, well, that's as good of a person to emulate as any. I thought it was a good idea. So I have a little heater that I run under the table because I have to try to remember to unplug it whenever I go back upstairs to the light. Keep the table clean is going to help with the speed a lot. I had one guy that was always on me about, he's telling me I should iron my table. Just get a regular iron, like for clothes, like you're a caveman or something, and iron your table. And he was on me about this. You got to iron your table. So eventually I did try it once, and it accomplished absolutely nothing. It did not make my table any faster at all. What I have another problem. Should I find it? Did I find it? Yeah. So what I have is this little ramp made out of Legos, and I can butt it up against the rail. I can take a ball, let it run down the ramp, and this is how I can tell how is the speed of my table, you know, when I do various things. The way that this is right now, it looks like I come back, I can go a table and a half. When the table's first recovered, I'm coming about here. But ironing it, guess what? Exactly a table and a half. It made zero difference for me. Maybe, you know, this is Simona Stage 60. Maybe with the old felt stuff or something, maybe it would be different. Maybe with older and crappier cloth, maybe ironing it would make it better. This cloth is already in pretty good shape, so I don't think that's necessary. One thing that's weird, I don't know if it's weird, but on a diamond table and probably some others, this is a Diamond Professional, and the legs screw into the table. By one person I can do it. There's a little hole, and I can stick a thin screwdriver in the hole and twist it, and I can raise or lower a corner of the table. So what I can do, I don't do this, but what I could do is I could raise this table up an inch or lower it an inch, just kind of like all by myself. There's a range in table heights. I don't know, 29 to 31 inches or something, like if you look at the official rule books. This table's at the high end of that range because I just like the table to be a little bit higher. My local pool hall, its 9-foot table, is at the low end of that range. So it always takes me just a little bit of time to get used to bending over that little bit of further distance, that extra inch or whatever. Old man, old back, and all that. If I felt like it, I could lower this table another inch. Just go around and just lower each corner. I could do it. There are probably other tables you can do the same thing. I don't do that. I don't see myself doing that. If I was a professional pool player, then maybe I'm playing at this place that's got, 30-inch height. I'm going to adjust my table to 30 inches and practice like that for a while. And then next week I got a 29-inch height. I've got to, like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm not good enough, and I'm not one. So, but that's certainly possible. The other thing I want to talk about, and I'm a little bit annoyed with myself. I live by myself, but I still manage to lose things. And I can't blame it all on my cats. I blame a lot of it on my cats. One thing you can do with the table is, these are 4.5-inch pockets. These are standard diamond, professional, pro cut pockets they call it. If I decide I want to practice on something a little bit tougher than that, and I don't want to wait until I get the table recovered and get some shims added or whatever, I can do pocket reducers. I've run across 2 different kinds of pocket reducers. I've seen like a couple of homemade styles too, but I've run across 2 and I have 2. The reason I'm irritated with myself is I have some of these that have pool table cloth, old pool table cloth, glued to them. And the reason is because you take these damn things and you cram them in. This metal is surprisingly strong. You cram them in, you hopefully it doesn't fly up and poke out your eye or something. But you do that, if a ball hits this rubber, it's going to do that. It's not going to go in. But with the cloth taped to it, it made it seem just a little bit more reasonable, where it just became a tight pocket, not a tight pocket with rubber guarding the pocket. This is decent practice, and they're fairly quick to go on. They seem fairly stable. When I do practice with these, I do go around every now and then and make sure they haven't been jarred out of position, because I do hit a lot of my shots pretty hard. The main problem with these, to me, is that this is sticking up. It's in my damn way. So there are going to be some shots where if I'm going to shoot a 14 in the side, I got to go under. And there are going to be some other shots where I got to be jacked up higher than I want to be, just because of this. That's not a huge thing. This is just for practice. And that's one of the reasons I don't use them that much, though. I play a lot of one pocket as well, and a lot of one pocket is down here, you're shooting stuff soft and this, and you get these things in your way and it just gets annoying. But I do have them. One point on the internet, I saw these things, this type of pocket reducer. I don't think I've ever seen them since, but it's these guys. And these are also pocket reducers, just a different mechanism, different style. So what these are is just a bunch of, looks like I'm missing a couple, probably around somewhere. A bunch of things like this, and it's got double-sided tape. And you take them out, and I always have to, take them out and use double-sided tape and stick them on each side. At least it probably takes off a half-inch total for it. This is a neat idea, and this is already like a cloth covering. But in my experience, they just didn't last very long. They didn't stay in position very long. The double-sided tape isn't strong enough for it. The other thing was interesting, and I've kept them. This is like I guess it's probably about the same material as a shim would be. It's pliable, but it's not. I couldn't bend it in half or anything, but I can bend it. And that's all it is, just do that all the way around. Doing this will also allow the pocket to still be shaped like a pocket. With these things, on the corners it's fine. In the corners you end up where it's fine. The opening is still the same shape. But on the side pockets, it's not. The design is just not correct for that. Not a big deal. The other things that I have done, and I'm not entirely sure these count as like table modifications, but especially when learning how to bank. And I've already shown one of these, whatever I did with it. What did I do with that? Okay. Well, whatever I did with my straight edge. Yeah, there it is. Everybody is. These are Truebank's banking rail mirror thingy bobs. When I was first learning how to bank, like, hey, these are great. They're set for the end rail, and you just take it and you just shove it down there. Doesn't interfere with the balls at all. It sets back far enough, and it was cool. But it was cool for a beginner, and it's hard to see now from my old eyes. If I want to bank this 6 down here under me, first of all, I got to find the reflection of this pocket in that mirror thing, and it's hard to see. And it's also the photon mirror bullshit system, which I have pointed out several times, doesn't work at any kind of speed other than pocket speed. And even then, it might not work all that great. But I do have a set of those. And every now and then, usually I would use those things like I'm trying to learn like my true rail kicks and stuff. And where's the geometric true rail kick line? I've used them for things like that. And the other thing that I've done in the past, if you really want to go completely insane, is, remember how I got my dots every 12.5 inches? I've gone through on the ceiling. I basically put a mirror table, measured out everything, and gone through my ceiling. And you guys might be able to see there's a piece of tape right here. This piece of tape right here is a mirror for this. It's the center of this pocket, but mirrored over. If that makes sense. And yeah, most of my tape has fallen off. But I use those as well. When I was messing at one point with the mirror table system for banks. I like trying stuff. I found it interesting. I found that the mirror table system doesn't work particularly well at slow speeds. But it was there. It was something to mess with. So I messed with it. Now I gotta find my remote. I'm just losing shit left and right. Yeah. Alright, so there is my, I don't have anything else written down there that's even close to interesting. And this hasn't been super interesting, but that's what I do. I let the table rest. I put the dots on everywhere. I put the head string line on. I put the line on down there. I put the donut hole on. Try to keep the table clean and all that. If I feel like doing other things, like putting some tape over the diamonds, I do that. I don't have a table in my basement that I own. I'm allowed to do things like that to, try to help my practice, maybe make things more fun for me. And so that's what I do. Later, guys.